podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
Now entering the PNRNetworks arena, coming down the aisle from Revere, Massachusetts, weighing in at absolutely none of your business. It's the mistress of mayhem, the queen of quips. It's time for Ring Around the Rosie with your hostess, Kim Brown.
Welcome, everybody, to another week here on Ring Around the Rosie. I am your host, Kim Brown, a.k.a. Platinum Rose Lady, coming to you on Tuesday, the 29th of October, 2019. It's almost here! I'm so excited. I love Halloween. I've mentioned this before. I'm a Halloween in my head 24/7. That's the way I always am. So I'm super duper excited and stoked. And if you are someone who is taking some, your little people out to go trick-or-treating, your small ones, everybody be safe. I hope everybody's safe. And kids who should not be listening to this show, because I swear entirely too much, and don't do anything. Anything you hear me say, like bad words, don't say those. They're bad words. But listen to your parents and make sure you have something reflective on, because we don't want anybody to get hit by a car or anything like that. And make sure your parents check your candy. And parents who check their children's candy, do not sneak into their room after they're asleep and go through their candy and take out all the really good stuff. Don't do it. You know who you are. Since this is, Halloween week and it's my show, I just kind of wanted to do a little side thing here talking about Halloween and the horror movies that are part of Halloween. Obviously, some people they have like Halloween horror movie marathons with their friends and stuff like that and watch horror movies and stuff, which is awesome. I myself, me personally, I love horror movies, but I love the classic horror movies. I'm not saying that the more modern stuff isn't great, because it is. Certain aspects of it. I'm not really into the whole torture porn, Saw, Hostel kind of stuff. If that's your bag, that's your bag, but it's not my scene. I just don't dig it. I really do like, the universal classic horror movies. They harken back to my childhood and the movies that I used to watch on TV when I was a kid that I probably shouldn't have been watching at a very young age, but nobody checked on you so much back then. And, they're just, they're fun to me. They're fun movies, from Dracula and Frankenstein, The Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, all those, and of course Godzilla. I have my other show, Kaiju Corner, if you'd like to go take a listen to that over on Patreon. I will be talking about some stuff later on about Patreon and all the neat things we've got coming up, so definitely hang out for that. Slasher movies are fun. Some of them are just, you're just sitting there going, oh my gosh, please kill these people because they're so fucking stupid and annoying or whatever. And you can always sit there and go, they're gonna die, they're gonna die, they're gonna die. She's gonna live, he's gonna live, he might live, they're not gonna live. You can do, especially if you go back and look at the really old ones, But I'm just more into the monsters. That's my deal. That's my bag. Although I do have to admit, one of my favorite horror movies is George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. I think that is I honestly think that's one of the most frightening movies I've ever seen. I didn't actually see that film until I was a teenager. And I remember lying in bed being like, can't sleep, they'll get me, can't sleep, they'll get me, can't sleep, they'll get me. It freaked me out. That movie freaked me out so badly. But it's a great film. We were lucky enough to get to see it on the big screen at anniversary celebration, me and my guy, and that was really cool seeing it on the big screen. It's really cool when you get to see a classic movie on the big screen, because you kind of think back, wow, somebody saw this like this the first time, and it must have been so cool. I was lucky enough to get to see Psycho, which is another one of my favorite movies. One of Hitchcock's best, in my opinion. And I was able to see that at the Brattle in Cambridge. And if you ever come to Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is an awesome place, I love Cambridge. If you have any free time and you're just like there on vacation and you don't know what to do with yourself, make an excuse, go to the Brattle. It is one of the best theaters around. They're just awesome, and they do super cool work, and they're really neat. Hi, guys. And that was done completely without any prompting from anybody, because I just speak from my heart. And I'd love to know, like, you know, what your favorite horror movie is. Do you have a favorite horror movie? Do you not like horror movies? I gotta be honest, though, the one thing I don't like about, like, later horror movies, I hate fucking jump scares. Hate them with a passion. Hate jump scares. Can't deal with them. Don't like them. Also because I tend to swing blindly at things, because that's why I don't go in you know the haunted house rides where they're allowed to touch you? You know, the people that are working there, they're allowed to touch you or grab at you or shit? Yeah, I don't do that. Because there'd be an injury. You know, I've been watching wrestling for 30 plus years. I know how to hit somebody, so it's, that would be bad. But I'd love to know, PlatinumRoselle@yahoo.com, or you can talk to me on Twitter if you'd like, PlatinumRoselle@twitter.com. And obviously there's been I should talk about this, why not? Fuck it, it's my show. Since we're talking Halloween spooky shit and stuff like that, there have been some wrestlers that have obviously, you know, done gimmicks that are tinged with the supernatural and stuff like that. You can't talk about that kind of a list and not talk about The Undertaker, whom I happen to be, you know, a big fan of. I have been a fan of The Undertaker, and I remember when he debuted way back, he's not gonna be happy with me. If you ever hear this, I'm so sorry. But I mean, I remember when he was part of the Skyscrapers in, NWA/WCW with Danny Spivey under a different name. And, you know, it's so funny when you think about, like, that was the guy that became The Undertaker in the WWF at the time. Originally, from what I've heard and research I've done, they were originally going to call him Kane the Undertaker. And that kind of just fell by the wayside, and they just picked the name up and gave it to, well, Kane. You know, after he was, you know, fake Diesel and Sir Isaac, you know, Dr. Isaac Yankem and all that other stuff, which all has to be at least better than when Glenn Jacobs was the Christmas creature. Go look it up. I dare you. I have only seen pictures of this, and I'm like, sweet baby penguins, why? Who thought this was a good idea? The Undertaker's gone through quite a few, you know, changes over the years. I mean, he's been a face, he's been a heel, he's just been there being all creepy and shit, you know, which is kind of hot. Yes, fine. I've always found The Undertaker attractive, and I've always been drawn to him. And even during the feud that he had with Roman Reigns, I was like, oh man, Roman Reigns and The Undertaker in the same ring. You know who wins this? Me. I win. Sorry, Roman. But, I mean, a couple of times we had, you know, some really weird turns with Taker, besides, you know, face and heel turns. You know, for a while we had the whole American Badass thing, and that was like, okay. I've always heard that it was Taker's, you know, that Taker wanted to do this. He was sick of doing the other whole spooky gimmick and stuff, and then apparently he decided he wanted to go back to it, and fuck me, I'm not going to tell The Undertaker no to anything. Fuck that noise. It's not that I didn't like the American Badass gimmick, because you could tell he was very comfortable with it, you know, because that's who he is. He's a big dude, he likes to ride, stuff like that. And it was, I mean, besides the fact that we had to listen to Rollin', nope, not gonna do it. I'm not gonna jump on the slam all over Limp Bizkit bandwagon like everybody slams on Limp Bizkit and Nickelback. I'm not going to do it. Although, to be honest, I kind of actually like Rollin' a little bit because it does make me think of The Undertaker, and that makes me happy. There were a few times, though, I do remember kind of sitting there watching Taker's interviews and things, and my head would start doing that tilt thing, like a dog does when it hears a strange noise, that thing. Specifically during the whole Ministry of Darkness angle, I just didn't get that. I mean, I got it, but at the same time, I was sitting there going, are they having somebody who plays D&D write this? Because I'm sorry, the way he was talking and the way he was dressed and all that stuff, I kept expecting, a 10th level paladin with a +5 Holy Avenger to kick the door in or something like that. And yes, I played D&D. I'm a geek. I know. But, we've had Taker do all manner of spooky things, conjure up lightning. I love the whole thing where they'd actually had him, he's on some kind of a moving sidewalk kind of a deal on like the bigger pay-per-views and stuff. It looks like he's almost floating to the ring. And I'm like, that is the shit. That is really cool. I always was fascinated. The first, the WrestleMania where he fought, Giant Gonzalez, which was an awful match. That is not Taker's fault, and I'm not gonna slam or slander Giant Gonzalez because he is not on this plane of existence anymore, and that would be rude. But it was not a good match, and we'll leave it right there. But the thing is, it was at Caesar's Palace, and they had this whole Roman thing happening and all that stuff like that, and people were being led out on chariots and shit. And Taker, when he came out with his manager Paul Bearer, he was, in this small chariot thing, and they had a vulture with him on a perch, and I was like, that is so cool. That just looked cool as hell. It just really, really, I know I'm a complete, I'm a theater geek too, so I'm all about, presentation and all that. And I've always been of the opinion, always make a good entrance. A good entrance is, really, really important. Look at Batman. Besides the fact that he's Batman, the whole crashing through, windows and all that shit, it's cool, let's face it. And just the whole image of Taker on this smaller chariot with this big, it's like a full-grown vulture, and those are not small birds. Those are large, will screw you up if you get too close to them birds. So, he's definitely he's the first person I think of if I think of a wrestler to do with, the supernatural or the occult or the spooky or the weird. This one's going back a long ways, and I know that I'm probably talking about some stuff here that a lot of younger people who are listening to this may not remember. I only found out about it, and I never saw any of it, on TV because we didn't get it, but I read about it in the magazines and stuff like that. Kevin Sullivan, which is a name you might remember from WCW for whatever reason that you do, he was part of a group of people. He was like the leader, and they had this whole occult gimmick thing where there was a lot of mystical talk, and it was inferred. And when I say inferred, I mean coming as close to it without actually saying it. They were inferring that they were Satan worshipers. And like I said, they never came flat out and said, yes, we worship Satan, because this was in Florida in the 80s, and they probably would have gotten yanked off the air. I'm not entirely sure you wouldn't get yanked off the air now, although you'd probably have the ACLU there being like, no, you can't do that, And it, they were the heels, and they were supposed to, this was the biggest thing they could come up with to freak people out. I gotta be honest, it was disturbing looking. And you had Kevin, who was really good at looking disturbing. Sorry, Kevin. That came out that did not come out flattering. Kevin's very good at being creepy. There. Is that better? I'm not entirely sure. you had, Mark Lewin, the Purple Haze. You had the Fallen Angel, Kevin's wife at the time, Nancy, and all these other assorted weirdos. And it was freaky. I mean, when you looked at it, you were like, okay, this is nuts. When you look at the later stuff that Sullivan had to work with in WCW, especially like the Three Faces of Fear stuff and the Dungeon of Doom and all that stuff like that, which was all just goofy as fuck. I mean, it was, please, Mr. Sullivan, if you hear this, please don't be angry at me. It almost came off as campy as the old 60s Batman TV show. There, I said it. I'm so sorry. I feel so terrible now because some of the people that were involved with that aren't with us anymore, like John Tenta and people like that. I feel bad. But if you go back and look at the stuff from Florida, that actually was scary because it was like you were kind of sitting there going, okay, this is really over the top and weird and stuff like that. But at the same time, you were kind of going, are they really into this shit? It's like, are they really serious about this? And that makes it disturbing, and of course, I mean, it is another faith and people have, people can worship who they want or not, if that's your thing, yay First Amendment, and all the other amendments that keep us free. But, it's weird. I mean, if you go back and look at it, it is exceedingly strange stuff. I'm trying to think of who else has had, like, monster gimmicks and things. Of course, in Japan, and it's very weird because in Japan and also in certain portions of America, like smaller feds and things like that, you can slap somebody under a mask and pretty much do whatever you like. But Japan, for reasons that I don't quite get, really likes the whole having monsters, not monsters as in, like Creature from the Black Lagoon wrestlers, but like they have movie villains as wrestlers. Do it that way. They've had people dressed as Freddy Krueger. They've had people dressed as Jason Voorhees. People dressed as Leatherface. That one's an interesting one. I've been lucky enough to see some footage from Japan, from other, from tapes and things. And I just remember seeing Leatherface and being like, yeah, I'd run too. Cause you see the audience just scattering cause, there you have this enormous guy wearing this hideous mask and with a chainsaw that's, shooting sparks everywhere. I don't know how they do that. I'm very not mechanically inclined. If I can turn the computer on and not have the blue screen of death pop up, I'm like, yay! But I'm like, how did they do that? And I'm thinking to myself, why do I care? It's like, I'm assuming that was a doctored chainsaw. That has got to be the weirdest thing I've said all day. That, it didn't actually have the spinny sharp bit in it, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't want to get close enough and find out, fuck you. It's like, but I mean, it was loud and it was scary. I want to say I heard at some point somebody was doing the ghost face gimmick as a wrestler. I might have that wrong though. I want to say I've seen that somewhere, but I might not have. I don't recall exactly. I know there've been a few people doing there have been a few people doing monster gimmicks, people wearing like a Frankenstein's monster mask, which I think would be a bitch to wrestle in. I would also think if you were actually dressed as the Frankenstein monster with the whole, the whole outfit and all that, including the big clunky boots, I would think, well, that fucks up any going to the top rope shit. That ain't gonna work. I know there was a person a while back that, their whole gimmick was a mummy. And I don't mean the Yeti. I mean, their actual gimmick was that they were a mummy, like they would be, if they were hit in the ring, like dust would fly off them and all this stuff. I think his name was Prince Karis or something like that, or Karis, like the mummy in the Universal monster movies. Not the first one, that was Imhotep, played by Boris Karloff. And yes, I do know these things because, as I mentioned, nerd. it's really, well, it makes sense to do kind of outlandish costumes in wrestling. I don't think it makes sense to do them in a way that you got a costume that's going to limit somebody's movement or make it difficult to see and or breathe while they're wrestling, because that seems kind of counterproductive, stupid, and more than a little dangerous, not only to them, but the people in the ring with them. Other nightmare fuel that I can think of off the top of my head, and who could talk about wrestlers that just look like they stepped off a Halloween greeting card like the Boogeyman? I mean, it's right there in his name. He's the Boogeyman. Not exactly quiet like Michael Myers. I mean, the Halloween reference, forget it. But seriously, that guy is crazy. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. He was always just really entertaining, although I could have definitely done without the worms. I'm sorry, just thinking about the whole thing with him with live worms in his mouth, that I would just sit there and be like, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be violently sick. 'Cause I'm also like, that can't be healthy for you as an individual. That just can't be healthy. If anybody else has any like supernatural wrestlers that you want to mention, anybody that I've forgotten to bring up, just drop me a line and I will definitely, talk about what you remember, talk about any memories you have of seeing anybody like that if you'd like. I mean, that would be really cool if you're so inclined to do that as well. Some other things to talk about this week. I would like to be able to say that I'm not going to spend the next few minutes bashing on the WWE. That would be wrong, but I'm just, it's like, I just, there's times, man, I'm not kidding. Obviously, the big thing coming up on Halloween, actually, ironically, is WWE Crown Jewel, which is coming from Saudi Arabia, which, as I mentioned, I am not getting. I do not feel comfortable with this. I can't, in good conscience, support them going to a country that is so, their human rights violations are shocking. The whole incident with the journalist, Mr. Khashoggi, who was brutally murdered, the way they treat women, the way they treat people with alternate lifestyles. And I understand for people out there who are going to be like, it's their country, blah, blah, blah. And it is their country. And they have a right to do things the way they want to do in their country. I have a right to say, yeah, no, pass. And that's what I'm doing. But in the interest of trying to be fair, I will go over the card real quick. There's going to be a tag team turmoil match, and that is exceedingly difficult to say, which is going to, the point of which is to crown a best tag team in the world, so apparently Shane McMahon can't go up for this. Also because Shane won't be there. Neither Shane nor Triple H are expected to be at Crown Jewel. Of course, stuff may change. But Triple H is going to be supervising NXT tomorrow, which is live, obviously. And Shane is not going to be going as far as we know because Saudi Arabia is luckier than the rest of us. Anywho, the tag team turmoil match, which will also, they'll be presented with a World Cup, neat, I guess, includes the New Day, and Kofi Kingston and Biggie, the Viking Raiders, Heavy Machinery, Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, the OC, Lucha House Party, the Revival, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, and the B-Team. So that's nice for everybody involved, I guess. I don't know what else to say about that. We have a match with Mansoor going against Cesaro. AJ Styles will be putting his United States Championship up against the winner of a Battle Royal. A 20-man Battle Royal, to be exact. They're not going to do the 95-man Battle Royal that they did, other crown jewels that they've done in the past. The Battle Royal, people as of right now include Titus O'Neil, Mojo Rawley, Apollo Crews, Tony Nese, the Brian Kendrick, Luke Harper, Umberto Carrillo, Eric Young, Cedric Alexander, Drake Maverick, Heath Slater, No Way Jose, the Singh Brothers, Sheldon Benjamin, Buddy Murphy, Akira Tozawa, Sin Cara, Eric Rowan, and R-Truth. So, going to be really interesting with that. There's going to be a team tag team match with a team that is going to be captained by Hulk Hogan versus the team captained by Ric Flair. Now, I don't know if that means that they're going to get, if they're actual, participants in the match, or if they're just going to be out there, for moral support and eventually get involved, because they're going to. Hogan's team is Rusev. Okay. Chad Gable, who is now referred to as Shorty G, and I just want to cry about that. Ali, Ricochet, and Roman Reigns. So this is apparently going to be the attractive team and Rusev. No, that was bad Kim, no cookie. No, Rusev is a very handsome guy. I think he looked better with long hair, but that's me and my long hair issues. In case you guys hadn't noticed, I have issues. Lots and lots and lots of issues. Team Flair includes Drew McIntyre, the Scottish psychopath. Hate that. I'm sorry. Calling this twerp a psychopath is insulting to every psychopath I know. And I know more than I should. Bobby Lashley, Shinsuke Nakamura, Randy Orton, and King of the Ring winner, Baron Corbin. I almost got that out without retching, but, shit happens. WWE Universal Champion Seth Rollins is putting his belt on the line again against Bray Wyatt. Again. Or The Fiend. Everybody all together. Again. In a Falls Count Anywhere match. I don't see this going well. And I'm not saying this, oh gosh. I don't know how to say this and not sound like a condescending fuck. But I'm gonna say it anyway. I think having a Falls Count Anywhere match in this environment is less than a good idea. I'm not saying that because I don't think the audience will not behave. I do think the audience will behave. From what I've seen, people in Saudi Arabia who show up for WWE events, they're very super excited to be there and they really want to have a good time, and that's great. That's what you're supposed to do at a wrestling show. Have a good time. The problem is that I'm kind of concerned that these are people that aren't used to this kind of, Falls Count Anywhere kind of things where you have wrestlers in the crowd and stuff like that. I don't want anybody to freeze and get hurt. That's my concern, that somebody might be like, oh no, what do I do? And not get out of the way fast enough and possibly get hit with something, like a fan, obviously we don't want that. We want everybody at the show, all the people in Saudi Arabia who are at the show, we want them to all have a good time and be safe. Definitely want them to be safe, because I don't want anybody to get the idea that I'm saying all that stuff I said earlier about Saudi Arabia. I'm saying that about the government. I am not saying that about the Saudi people. From what I've seen on TV and stuff like that, the people of Saudi Arabia are beautiful, welcoming people, and they're super cool, and, I hope they all have a wonderful time at the show. I'm just not going to watch it. Tyson Fury is going to be going against Braun Strowman. Tyson Fury is a boxer, and an exceedingly large boxer. That man is very tall. I mean, I know that, actually I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I'm assuming boxing doesn't have a height limit. I don't know. I I know very little about boxing. I know two people go in there and punch the crap out of each other, and that's about all I know. I don't know if there's you can be like too tall to be a boxer. Apparently not, because Tyson Fury, who is an exceedingly intimidating looking individual. And I mean that again in the nicest possible way. Not that Braun Strowman is not an intensely, intimidating looking individual, because he most definitely is. This is going to get ugly. Like Alien Autopsy ugly. And WWE champion Brock Lesnar, I hate saying that, going against Cain Velasquez. And these guys have issues. These guys have had a past together. These guys have fought before, and Cain beat Brock before. I'm supposing it's too much to ask that he beats Brock now. I mean, I realize I'm asking for entirely too much, probably. So, it is what it is, as they say. It's gonna be what it is. And I really, I'm not saying that I want the show to do terribly, and I certainly don't want anybody to have anything bad happen or have anybody get hurt or anything like that. I don't want that. But I just can't order this in good conscience. And I'm not saying that because I want anybody to be like, I'm not saying that because I want to be praised for it. I just feel like I can't in good conscience order this, and that's just me. It's not anybody else, it's just me. Looking around at some other things going on, let's talk for a minute about boundaries. Now, boundaries are really actually should be a pretty simple thing. And they really should be something that I shouldn't have to explain to people, especially if you're listening to this show and you're a grown-up adult person. Because considering the amount that I curse, or talk about things in a vaguely sexual manner, because I'm a woman and I have needs, don't judge me. I don't think you want anybody who's of a younger frame of mind listening to this show. But at the same time, apparently I do have to explain boundaries to grown up adults, because apparently some people just don't fucking get it. Hulk Hogan had a run-in with a fan, and it was ugly. I mean, from what I've heard, this person may or may not have been intoxicated, and tried to get up in the Hulkster's face, and it was not a good look. I really don't understand. I mean, I know a lot of people over the years have had their problems with certain wrestlers and stuff like that from whatever, if the wrestler is a face or a heel in the ring or whatever. I guess my whole thing is it's a simple fact of treat people like you would want to be treated. If you wouldn't want to be out just having a drink in a public place and just hanging out and being calm and stuff like that, and not have some stupid drunk fuck come over and start yelling at you or demand a picture or stuff like that, don't do it to somebody else. I mean, it's that simple. It's really weird. I mean, celebrities you hear a lot of celebrities talk about I don't have any privacy anymore and this, that, and the other thing. And on one hand, you do kind of feel like, well, there's a kid at minimum wage working minimum wage at McDonald's that would love what you do. But on the other hand, because someone is a celebrity doesn't mean you own them, I own them, or anybody else owns them. They're allowed to have free time. They're not always going to be on, and you don't have to, you can't just automatically assume because you're paying, for a pay-per-view or 2 or 10 or whatever, that this person has to drop everything they're doing just to take a picture with you or, an autograph or whatever. I'm just saying. I just think that some people need to just calm down. I mean, like I said, that's just my opinion, though, for what it's worth. Also talking about some not so good things, and one of the not so good things would be the ratings for SmackDown. The most recent ratings for SmackDown have come in as of last week's show, and they are not good. Well, the thing is, they couldn't put SmackDown on Fox because Fox was running the World Series. And so they had to put it on a different channel. Now, some people might argue that was the reason that, the ratings weren't so high. I don't think so, to be perfectly honest. Considering that the ratings have been kind of slipping, since the move, I'm a little more concerned about that than it's just, growing pains or something like that. I don't know. I mean, do I want it to bomb? No, not really. I don't, it's really weird when people are like, oh, I wish something, and I've done this, I admit I've done it. Let's talk about a movie that you hope's going to tank or something like that. But I don't want a wrestling show to go, to crash and burn, because I don't want these people to be out of a job. Even people that I don't like, I don't want them to be out of a job. Simply because they're people. And I don't want to do that. That's not cool. That is not cool at all. But speaking of something that is cool and just super duper nice, I want to bring up something that John Cena has done. John Cena made a donation, and a very big donation too, to firefighters and rescue workers and all that out in California. He donated $500,000 toward the first responders in California, who are obviously dealing with some very heavy, nasty stuff out there with all the wildfires and all that. If you are listening to this and you are in California, I hope you are safe. I hope you are far away from all of the danger. And definitely keep yourselves and your family safe. I just think that John doing that was really super cool. His new movie is going to be coming out in a week, Playing with Fire, where he plays a firefighter. And I just think that that's awesome that he would do something like that. I know a lot of people have always kind of, in the last couple of years, it's been like cool to slag on John. I mean, am I being that way because he's from Massachusetts? Maybe a little, but he just genuinely seems like a decent guy to me. He just seems like a really decent guy. I always did laugh, though, when they would talk about that, Newbury, Massachusetts, and they make it sound like it's right outside Boston. I'm like, no, it's not. Not even close. That's just stupid. I just think it's funny, but, I would like to also, just closing stuff out here before I get to some other business. The whole thing with the end of Raw, which had a lot of interesting, cool, actually not bad moments in it, and then it also had moments that sucked. The whole thing with the Kabuki Warriors, this bothers me. Now, the reason this bothers me, and I know some people are going to be like, well, if it doesn't bother Asuka and Kairi Sane, it shouldn't bother you. Maybe, but nobody has asked them if it bothers them. It bothers me that they're even called the Kabuki Warriors, because Kabuki is not, women do not perform Kabuki. There was a point in time when there would be all male troops of Kabuki actors, and they would have women parts played by attractive young men. And for a while, there were what are called Onakabuki, which was women, and they'd had all women troops. Now, as far as I know, that's never come back. It was around for a while, but I believe it was made illegal at one point. For some really stupid reason, lots of different cultures have had this whole thing about women not acting. You know, they had it in Japan, they had it in Elizabethan times. You know, it was considered for a woman to be an actress. It was almost like she was a woman of loose morals and things like that, which is stupid. Speaking as an actress, and I'm just, the whole Kabuki Warrior thing with Asuka and Kairi Sane, I was like, what? So you're just going to call them Kabuki because that's a Japanese word? Really? We're really going to do this? And now, of course, they've turned full heel with them attacking their former manager or current manager until last night, Paige, with Asuka blasting Paige in the face with the green mist because every heel Japanese wrestler can blow green mist out of their mouths. What? And the thing that really makes me insane is that we don't know why they turned heel. You know, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Maybe it's just me and I'm being unreasonable, but considering that the WWE continuously shoves down our throats that we're sports entertainment, for the most part, has things like sensible plot lines, you know? They have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the things that happen between the beginning, the middle, and end are things that are supposed to tie everything together so that you have a rich and colorful tapestry at the end of it, and not a whole bunch of jumbled together crap. Guess which category you're falling in, WWE? And the fact that they decide to end the show last night with this whole divorce court thing between Lana Rusev and Bobby Lashley, good friggin' grief. Especially since Lana can't seem to get her story straight about why she strayed from Rusev. You know, we get the whole, he wanted me to have kids. Well, first it was, he wants sex all the time. Unless, you know, something really bad's happening, when you get married, you know, you're assuming you love the person you marry, and you're assuming if you love them, you're having sex. Maybe not all the time, but, and then it was, he wants us to have kids and I don't want to right now. And he's saying all this, I wanted kids with you because I loved you, you know, and, you know, that's, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody who gets married should have kids. I know a shit ton of people who got married that should not have had kids, because they suck at being parents, which does not follow anybody in my family. I'd like to say that right now in case any of them are listening. And then it was, I cheated on Rusev because he cheated on me first. Because Bobby Lashley told me that he cheated on me, and Bobby Lashley never lies. Are you fucking for real? This stuff is being written like it was written by a writer from the Jerry Springer show who had a deadline and a hangover. I mean, this is just terrible. And the only thing that could make it even more terrible is the fact that I have to bring up a phrase that I brought up a few weeks ago, and I have to bring it up again with somebody else because some people just don't fucking get it. Another wrestler has been receiving death threats, and that would be Bobby Lashley. According to him, he has been receiving death threats about this storyline between him and Lana. This hasn't been embellished on, and that's really a good thing because I don't want to give anybody any more air with this, the people who are saying these hateful things. But so help me, Hannah, really, it's a wrestling storyline. To quote Taylor Swift, you need to calm down. It's just really, seriously. We've got something new for you, something to help us continue to bring you the best websites and podcasts possible. It's called the PNR Network Patron Circle, and PNR Networks shows like Ring Around the Rosie, this show, and sites throughout the network that do not use advertising, which is our stuff. We depend on our listeners and readers to help us out. So, I'm making a personal appeal for all of the pro wrestling fans out there to please take the time to join the Patron Circle. It's just $5 a month. That's the cost of just one large latte in most areas. And it's a measly 17 cents a day. And members of the Patron Circle are going to be getting a ton of extra exclusive features throughout the entire network, including additional podcasts, extra articles, special features, opportunities to be involved with different stuff that we do, special polls, early access to specials, cool fun gifts every now and then, and your monthly membership fee will help us to do even more for you, our loyal readers and listeners. And if you join by November 10th, you're going to get 2 very cool perks right off the bat. A Patron Circle Charter membership certificate and inclusion in a very special Thanks for Giving Thanksgiving video. You'll also get a shout out on our various podcasts as well as listed in our Patron Circle members list. So won't you please help us out? Go to patreon.com/PNRNetworks and sign up today. You won't be billed until the first day of the following month, in this case November, and you'll always be billed on the first day of the month as well. Your $5 monthly membership will go a long way toward helping PNR Networks grow into 2020 and beyond. So sign up for the PNR Networks Patron Circle today and help support my show, Ring Around the Rosie, and all of the PNR Networks shows and sites. And I hope that you guys will, if you have the money, and just toss us a little coin, that would be super cool. And I hope you will like, share, and subscribe to our shows, all of our shows. And find out, and if you don't know about our other shows, you can definitely come and check them out, and you can find out all of that stuff on our website. I would like to bring up that this stuff is, we do this because we love it, and we're doing it because we love it, and we love you, and we want to have fun with it, and, have you be part of the fun, which is why we're offering this Patron Circle, promo and stuff like that. And you can check out Subject Cinema. You can check out Front Row 5 and 10, my show, Platinum Rose's Garden, which is my supernatural podcast, and all the other cool things that we do, and all of the other cool people that are part of our little island of misfit toys. And they're really fun, and we're really fun, and we want you to be part of the fun. And that is going to wrap things up here for another week on Ring Around the Rosie. And as I mentioned, I hope everybody out there has a safe and fun Halloween. Try not to be too scary. And I will come back next week and talk about some more wrestling stuff. So this is Kim Brown, a.k.a. Platinum Rose Lady, saying, Happy Halloween, darlings.
You have been listening to Ring Around the Rosie with Kim Brown, a production of PNR Networks. Keep in touch with all things about the show at http://ringaroundtherosie.net. Ring Around the Rosie intro performed by Eric Lyon. Ring Around the Rosie theme by Digital Juice. Join Kim for a new Ring Around the Rosie every Wednesday. Ring Around the Rosie is copyright 2018 PNR Networks, Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.